Okay, hey everyone, welcome to Fallout Podcast. Episode 102, Life Should Be Full of Strangeness. It's a fall showdown, but not tonight. Tonight, we're very lucky to have Pascal Le Gras, the artist who painted many of the Fall's record covers, joined by the usual group. Pascal, good evening, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
And we also have Roy along with us to help with my lack of French language. Pascal, were you working as an artist before you met the Fall, or was that when you first started painting?
Tu étais déjà artiste avant de
Bien sûr.
travailler pour The Fall ou... Yeah, of course, he was already an artist and painting a lot before I met, but j'imagine que ça a été une rencontre importante, c'est-à-dire ça a été un tournant quand même dans...
Non, parce que j'avais déjà commencé à faire des pochettes et puis surtout, j'avais déjà commencé à travailler depuis très longtemps.
So he was working as an artist since a pretty long time. Already designed covers for other music groups, so he was of course excited to work for The Fall.
So my understanding is the first record cover that Pascal painted was for a band called Damocles, which is a heavy metal band. It's a cool cover, but such a different design to the rest of the covers that we know.
Ma première pochette, en fait, c'était des copains, mes amis d'enfance.
They were the friends from childhood. So, tu les avais rencontrés à l'école ou?
Non, c'était des copains de voisinage.
It was like fellows, like friends in the neighborhood. So that's why he started with this cover, because they were close friends.
I guess the first record cover that I see that looks of a similar style was the Jazz Butcher record. I know Pascal did some covers for the Jazz Butcher when they were on Creation, and that's from before The Fall, I believe.
Tout ça, c'était avant The Fall.
Il y en a deux, je crois. En fait, c'était alterné une fois The Fall, une fois Jazz Butcher. Et donc, ça me permettait de faire des styles complètement différents.
Okay, so two of them are before The Fall, and then it was in general working, it was in between. So one for The Fall, one for Jazz Butcher. And so he could make his style change, and there is some kind of evolution and differences between.
En fait, ce que je voudrais dire maintenant, c'est que pour moi, la pochette de disque, c'est un support alternatif. C'est-à-dire que ça me permettait de faire plus que de la peinture. Je peux faire des photos, des montages, des films, des extraits de films. Ça ouvrait ma palette.
So, yeah, working for a musician made him enlarge his skills. And it was more than painting. It was like, participating to a process, and he could imagine different kind of things that he wouldn't have approached maybe only as a painter. It was a very important process for him working for musicians.
I'm really interested in asking about the process as we get into it, but maybe we can start with the timeline of Pascal shared this ticket stub with me from the 14th of December. What year was this? Pascal, can you tell us a little bit about this first time that you saw The Fall?
Bah il te montre un ticket, c'est pas quelle date c'était, mais est-ce que
84.
84.
Okay.
He thinks. And est-ce que tu peux dire un peu plus la manière dont ton expérience de The Fall en concert?
Alors la première fois que je les ai vus en concert, je les ai juste vus, j'étais tellement estomaqué que ça s'est arrêté là. Et la deuxième fois quand ils sont venus en France, c'est 89, je crois. Et là, je suis allé voir Marc en backstage. Et en fait, je suis tombé sur le groupe. Il y avait le bassiste, je sais plus le nom, et le guitariste, je sais plus.
Je vais déjà commencer. So he saw The Fall for the first time in 84. And he was just very impressed, and he enjoyed it very much. He was so enthusiastic, but he didn't go to meet the group. And then the second time in 89, then in Paris, he decided to meet Mark and to meet the whole group. He was very happy about that.
Et donc là, le guitariste et le bassiste m'ont servi pas d'interprète, mais de carte de visite pour rencontrer Marc.
Mm-hmm.
Et donc, j'avais fait un portrait de Marc que je lui ai offert, et je lui ai dit que je voulais travailler avec lui. Et donc, il m'a regardé, il était assis, allongé sur le canapé, il me regarde de pied à la tête, il se lève, et il me touche l'oreille et il me dit OK.
Yeah, the bass guitarist and the other guitarist, they introduced him to Mark, and then he had made a small portrait of Mark, small
Oh,
or
no.
big one, big portrait of Mark. He offered him at this occasion, and he said, "Well, I really wish to work with you. I would be happy to collaborate with you." And then Mark came close to him and then touched your hair.
Mm.
And he said, "Okay, il a dit quoi?
OK.
Okay, that's okay. Let's do it."
Et c'était parti.
And it was the beginning of
Une
the
grande
story.
histoire. Parce qu'en fait, pour moi, c'est très important comme anecdote, parce que déjà, pour rencontrer un musicien, c'est toujours très, 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 très difficile. Il y a toujours des connards qui nous mettent des bâtons dans les roues, qui m'empêchent. Alors, en ce moment, ça fait, je sais pas combien d'années que j'essaye de travailler avec P.O.D.C.A.S.T. Je l'ai rencontré une fois et ça amortit quelque chose, mais il n'y a pas de suite pour l'instant.
He wished to tell this story because it's sometimes very difficult to meet the artists, the musicians. And he was really happy this could happen. And he was easily introduced by the other musician he first met. And he was so happy with that because in general, the staff or even the group protect themselves so much that it's impossible to meet them. And the Fall was very open for this, for this.
Avec Marc, ça a toujours été très, très, très facile.
And it always been so easy with Mark. To meet him and to work with him, it was really a very strong story from the very beginning.
C'était parmi mes meilleurs copains. Hein.
And he was one of his best friends.
Wow. What made you decide to do the painting of Mark before the show?
Pourquoi t'as fait son...
Parce qu'à l'époque, j'avais fait une exposition où j'avais fait plein de portraits de musiciens, et dont Marc, et quand j'ai vu The Fall, j'ai dit, bah, cette toile-là, je vais lui offrir.
So he was inspired by music very much, and he made one exhibition with many portraits of musicians, and Mark was one of them. Because he was really so enthusiastic about the Fall. When he made this portrait, he said, "Well, if I have the occasion of meeting Mark, I will give him this portrait."
Beautiful. Which other artists did he paint?
Tu te rappelles les autres?
Bah, j'ai des photos. Hein.
Mais tu te rappelles les autres?
Oui, bah, il y a plein de gens que j'ai rencontrés, parce qu'en fait, ça a été un moyen de rencontrer plein de musiciens. J'ai eu plein de projets de pochettes, de travailler avec des musiciens qui ont jamais abouti.
D'accord. So he has some pictures from this exhibition, and so he met many people at that time, or he wanted to meet, but it didn't work always with the other groups. But he met a few bands at that time. And mais tu disais mais tu as des exemples, tu sais quels c'était les autres?
Ah ouais, bien sûr.
Vas-y aussi.
Bah, il y a Lou Reed, il y a Iggy Pop, il y a John Kell, il y a Alex Chilton, Alan Vega, Tom Waits, je l'ai déjà dit, Pat Fish, Paul Joyner, Mike DeVille, Kim Foley.
So these are more or less the musician he painted for this exhibition.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, am I right in thinking that Shift Work, the album, was the first piece of work you did with the Fall?
C'est son premier.
Ouais.
Yeah, this was his first collaboration. Yes.
What are your thoughts on that cover right now? I know you went back not too long ago and repainted a lot of them, or did new versions of a lot of the Fall covers.
C'est quoi ton sentiment sur cette pochette maintenant? Parce que t'as refait certaines pochettes, mais qu'est-ce que ça t'évoque? Qu'est-ce que cette pochette t'évoque?
Bah, je me rappelle surtout quand je l'ai fait, parce qu'en fait là on voit pas, mais la peinture c'est de la peinture à l'huile, donc elle est pas encore sèche.
Ah oui, d'accord. Même maintenant?
Ah non, si, bien sûr. Mais donc, il a fallu la transporter. Et en fait, ce que j'ai oublié de préciser, c'est qu'à chaque pochette, c'est jamais une proposition, il y en a toujours au moins 6 ou 10. Et je demande aux musiciens de choisir celle qu'ils préfèrent. Et donc là, par exemple, j'avais une dizaine parce qu'à la base, c'est des lampes. Donc, j'en avais 10 de différentes. Il a fallu les transporter dans la cour avec le photographe qui est assez connu, je me rappelle plus comment il s'appelle.
Des lampes?
Les lampes, elles sont derrière.
Ah oui, d'accord. Each time he had a project for a cover, he was making like 5, 8 proposals for the musicians to choose what they really preferred. So he wanted to offer them a wide choice. And at that time, for this cover, he used oil painting. And the oil painting, as you know, is takes time to dry. It's like a long process, sometimes years. So he remembers the painting was not dried yet. It was still, oily, and so it was a little bit difficult to handle, to move. And these were lamps, you said. C'est-à-dire, la lampe est derrière, mais c'est par transparence?
C'est les étoiles, c'est des caches
Ouais.
et l'ampoule est juste derrière.
D'accord, ok. Mais elle est derrière l'image?
Derrière, juste l'étoile.
Ah, d'accord.
L'image est encore derrière. T'as l'image.
Ah oui, d'accord, ok.
T'as
T'as l'image, ok.
et t'as
Okay. So this was some kind of a lamp. The black star you see are meant to cover the light, and the image is behind. That's why you have some reflection on the pictures.
Yeah, I think you're looking down because are these fireworks like stuck into the painting?
Ça, c'est des.
Tu veux mouliner?
So these are what you said, candles.
Sparklers, fireworks.
Yeah, it's fireworks. He likes the fact it disturbs a bit the thing. He didn't want something too clean. So the fireworks make a bit of mess in the image.
That's interesting because it's already quite a complex image, and then to add like a real world thing in between. Was there a meaning to this, or was it just to give it a little bit more texture?
C'était en termes de texture, ou tu aimais qu'il y ait une chose réelle dans l'image?
En termes de texture.
No, he wanted the texture to be more complex, to be more mess.
C'est la même, mais c'est que de la peinture là.
This one, I think, is one of my favorites, called Selfish.
Yeah, he likes very much this too.
Could you tell us a little bit about and maybe the meaning of the image, and maybe if it connects to the music at all?
Est-ce que pour toi il y a une connexion avec la musique? Enfin,
Ah bah oui, toujours. Là, pour moi, c'est plus free range, l'illustration de la chanson free range.
He was always inspired directly by the music, and this image is more directly connected in his mind to free range.
C'est Marc qui m'avait donné ses instructions de ce qu'il voulait.
For this cover, Marc told Pascal what he wanted, what he wished to have as an image, as an inspiration.
Et alors, j'ai une anecdote. J'écoutais Bernard Lenoir sur France Inter tous les jours, et un soir, je commence à m'endormir et j'entends une musique que je trouve absolument super. Je me dis, c'est quoi ça? Et en fait, c'était l'album de Code Selfish que j'avais encore jamais entendu. Et je me dis, ah, c'est moi qui fais la pochette, j'étais super fier.
Tu avais pas encore écouté la musique une fois que c'était juste ses instructions. Generally, it was inspired by the music, but for this cover, as he just said, Mark gave him some instruction, and then he understood it was connected to this to a song. But when he made the cover first, and then he was listening the radio to France Inter, which is a pretty famous radio station in France. And the emission was from Bernard Lenoir and Les Inrecuptibles. I don't know if you know this program. Very famous at that time.
Parce que son dieu à Bernard Lenoir, c'était John Peel.
And really, his God was John Peel. Pascal was listening this program every day. And suddenly he heard some music and he said, "Oh my God, that's great!" And he realized it was the Fall, and this was free range after he designed the cover.
Would you normally get the music and then create to the music, or will you just look for pieces that you already created that fit?
En général, donc là tu disais que Marc t'avait donné des instructions, que t'avais dessiné et que t'as découvert la musique après, mais est-ce qu'en général il t'as envoyé la musique avant?
Ouais.
Et est-ce que tu choisissais dans des choses que tu avais déjà?
Non.
They are all made to measure, and in general, Mark was sending the music before. But for this cover, he gave him some instruction, some special instruction.
Il y a toujours une histoire différente.
So the process was always different.
Parce qu'en fait, après, on s'est vu beaucoup. Moi, j'allais en Angleterre pour voir Marc, pour voir Pat-Fish, et donc on avait un échange verbal. Il y a même des fois, j'ai fait le travail, je l'ai fait sur place.
Each time was different, but he started to go very often to England, and sometimes he even painted in the studio some of the covers, because it was like, a very intense process meeting.
Il y a un élément nouveau, très important, c'est que c'est fait en numérique. Et en fait, à cette époque-là, j'ai commencé à étudier l'art numérique.
D'accord.
Et en fait, on avait réalisé un programme. Quand on mettait le son dans le programme, il réalisait des images. Et en fait, des années plus tard, Brian Eno a fait la même chose.
So he was at that time he was working on a program on a software to produce some images that could be inspiration from the music.
Encore.
This is not the case
Juste
for
au
this
début.
for this cover, but he started to think about this possibility when he had his first computer work, and he discovered that Brian Eno made the same research a few years later, transforming music into images that could inspire a creative process.
Can I ask you a question
Go ahead.
about the conversation with Mark? Would you mind telling us what Mark said in his instructions for the cover? I'm really curious as to how he described what he wanted.
Tu te souviens des instructions de Marc? C'est-à-dire qu'il est assez curieux de savoir quelles étaient
Des fois, donc en gros, il y
pour
avait
celle-là.
pour celle-là.
Oui.
Pour celle-là, les instructions, c'était les échanges qui a constitué le tout début de l'Europe, mais je sais pas moi, au Moyen Âge. Hein. Ça s'appelait.
Pascal doesn't remember the word itself, but it was like the very, very origin of Europe in maybe before Middle Age. And it was the connection between the different people and the exchanges.
Très précis. En Angleterre, je pense que c'est beaucoup plus connu qu'en France.
So he thinks in England it's maybe more known than in France. There is a word for that, the connection between the different people, different countries. That was the first image of Europe that could be considered at the pre-project of Europe. So this was what Mark was speaking about.
Really cool. I was really curious because I wondered how it tied into the title of the album. And obviously in the podcast, we talk a lot about all the songs individually. So
Free Range is about Europe. So I guess that makes a lot of sense. This is a photograph of a piece of digital art, though, yes?
Yes, that's right. C'est une photographie de ce qu'il y a sur l'écran du...
Ouais.
Yeah, that's right. It's the screen, yeah.
And I really love this new version. I think it's beautiful from, about 10 years ago. Is your inspiration from this kind of neo-expressionist or this art brut kind of movement? Is that where your style developed?
Quelle était ton inspiration en général, enfin l'inspiration de ton travail? Est-ce que ça vient de l'art brut? Est-ce que ça vient de...
En fait, au tout début, mais là c'est vraiment technique, hein. Moi, je viens de la figuration libre.
Pascal belongs to this, how do you call it, this wave called figuration libre.
J'ai en projet de participer avec eux à une exposition à Berlin cette année, peut-être, je pense.
So he was part of this move, and there might be an exhibition in Berlin. He will participate too. It was not really a group, but it was a feeling, a wave at that time.
Parce qu'en fait, à la base, moi, la première chose que j'ai faite, c'est de la bande dessinée.
First of all, he started to make some comic strips. And
quand ça a commencé à marcher, je me suis dit, mais en fait, moi, j'ai pas envie de raconter plein d'histoires. En une image, j'ai envie qu'il y ait toute l'histoire. Et donc, j'ai commencé à faire de la peinture.
The idea came from comics. He started first to think about making some comic strips, some comics, and to make some drawings for that. And then at a point, he said, well, I would think it's stronger to express one story in one image rather than having this narrative thing. Well, one image can be as strong as a story.
Et en fait, à la première exposition que j'ai faite, personnelle, je me suis dit, mais si je montre juste les peintures sans musique, il manque quelque chose. Parce que je travaille toujours à partir de la musique. Toujours.
So he was always, when he was drawing, when he was painting, he was always listening music. Music is his main inspiration. It's a constant inspiration. He never stopped listening music. When we're together in general, he says, well, it's so silent. Can we put some music? He always wants to listen music. And when he made his first solo exhibition, he felt, well, there is all these images, but there is a lack of music in my exhibition. He felt he needed music even in the exhibition. Et donc, tu as mis de la musique? And he started for his solo show
je mets toujours la musique
to prepare a track.
Tout le titre de mes toiles, c'est toujours le titre d'une chanson de quelqu'un.
So even when the cover, it's not for a cover, paintings are not connected to a cover. It has always a link with the music or with a title or it's always a reference to music.
Et d'ailleurs, j'ai une anecdote encore avec Marc. On était dans un bar et on était en train de jouer on faisait des blind tests. Donc, je sais pas si c'est en Angleterre. Et il diffusait une chanson de Stevie Wonder. Et Marc, il arrive et puis il dit, qu'est-ce que vous faites? On dit, un blind test. Et il dit, he's blind, en parlant de Stevie Wonder. Il avait tout compris.
So yeah, it's a little story. Blind test is expression we use in France. It's a game. You listen to the music and you need to guess what is the title. I mean, it's something we play with friends, and
Okay.
so you listen to the radio and you say, "Well, can you guess what it is?" And Mark came. Pascal was with friends and playing and joking, and Mark came and he said, "What are you doing?" And they said, "Well, we are trying to guess what's the music." And it was Stevie Wonder was on, and so he said, "Well,
He's blind.
he's blind." So that was, they called it a blind test, and he said, he's blind. He got the thing immediately.
This is perfect timing because I was going to play some videos that I think Pascal put on his channel. And the first one I've chosen is Blindness by The Fall. Maybe if I can play a few minutes of these and maybe you could, Pascal, you could tell us a little bit about your ideas, your process.
Ça, c'est un travail sur la rétine. C'est-à-dire que tu as ton œil qui s'habitue à un mouvement, puis ça, hop, ça change. Et donc, tu as l'effet pas de surprise, mais de
persistance.
Ouais.
So he said the inspiration for this video was the fact you get used to some kind of image, even if it moves, and then suddenly you go to another thing. So your eyes is surprised because even if it's blinking, then the change make a change in the change.
Et par rapport à mes vidéos, je voudrais dire encore un autre truc, c'est que parmi mes gros fans, j'avais Jonas Mekas et qui m'a organisé une rétrospective dans son site.
He met Jonas Mekas, and Jonas Mekas was one of the artists he really loved. And so they became friends, and Jonas made a screening of all his video in his theater. He had a movie theater.
That would be intense. That's intense on a small screen, but in a movie theater.
I watched about an hour's worth of Pascal's YouTube channel last night, and afterwards my head was just throbbing like that. It was so intense watching it all. It really reminded me of something I watched a long time ago about the illusion of movement, where things are not actually moving, but it all appears to be moving, like it's alive, like it's breathing almost. And it's so hypnotic to watch. It's really psychedelic, but it's not like 60s psychedelia. It's a new kind of psychedelia. I especially love the Lou Reed one. It was such a shame, the message at the end, to say that you'd lost some on the computer, but it's such a great piece of art.
Donc oui, il a regardé pendant 1 heure et ça l'a complètement ébloui et perturbé en même temps. Parce qu'il y a un truc qui est très hypnotique et qui est encore différent des effets psychédéliques.
Exactement.
So this Pascal says this
c'est un
is
très bon exemple de la vidéo avec lui.
This is the kind of this is the kind of effect he was looking for. So he's really happy you felt it that way.
Let's take a watch of this one, Untitled number 9, tribute to Lou Reed. Let's have a watch. nice. I mean, I think there's a deliberate Warhol influence there then, or a tribute.
En fait, moi j'aime bien tout ce qui est extrême, bon, les films de Warhol forcément, et mon disque préféré de tous, c'est Metal Machine Music.
The records he prefers, the one he prefers the most is
Metal Machine Music.
Metal Machine Music.
Definitely. That's one to separate the true fans from the casual listener. I think. Did you ever talk with Mark about heroes like Lou Reed and people like that?
Oui, oui, il était d'accord parce que je lui disais que pour moi, The Fall, c'était la continuité du Velvet Underground. Il était d'accord avec lui.
He told Mark that the Fall was like the next step after Velvet Underground, and Mark was agreeing with that. Pascal said, "Well, this is how he was seeing things," and Mark agreed.
Et puisqu'on parle de Marc, ce que je voudrais rajouter, c'est que son jeu préféré avec moi, c'était de parler français. Ça l'amusait, mais fort.
What Mark was really enjoying was speaking French, trying to speak French with Pascal. It was like a game for him. He enjoyed it very much.
Mark would always try and speak German in his records, and the only time he spoke French is on Lost in Music at the beginning. Yeah, did he learn much French? Were you a good teacher?
Il apprenait bien ou?
Ah oui, il parlait bien français, ouais.
Yeah, Pascal said he had a good French.
J'ai jamais compris pourquoi il avait la réputation de pas aimer la France, parce que franchement, moi je l'ai jamais vu dire quoi que ce soit de désagréable par rapport à la France.
So he had the reputation not to like so much France, but Pascal never understood that because he seemed to enjoy and to like French language and France. He never heard him saying some bad thing about France.
Nice. The English always have to be careful when talking about France. What about the album, the Infotainment Scan? What do you remember about this one?
De quoi tu te souviens par rapport à cette pochette?
Le montage final, c'est plutôt lui.
The final layout was Mark's choice from what Pascal has brought.
In many of these examples, the pictures are cropped or text is added. And of course, you know that it's going to be a record cover, but how do you feel, or how does that change how you're making the cover?
Comment le fait que ça soit une couverture influe sur ta manière de travailler, sachant que ça va être recadré ou ça va être...
Ben moi, en fait, ça c'est la chose que j'adore. C'est-à-dire que quand tu fais une pochette, tu sais qu'elle va être multipliée. Enfin, je sais plus comment on dit. Reproduite en plein d'exemplaires. Et qu'après, enfin surtout à cette époque-là, on voyait, il y a eu au départ, moi je travaillais sur le vinyle. Donc vinyle c'est 30 cm par 30. Et après, on est passé au CD. Donc presque un timbre-poste. Et pour voir les pochettes, quand on allait à la Fnac, par exemple, on les voyait grandes comme ça, reproduites dans les journaux. Tu vois, et donc ça te force intellectuellement à imaginer un travail, quelle que soit la taille reproduite, qui marche toujours. Et non seulement ça, mais te dire, quand tu prends une pochette de disque, une reproduction comme ça, bon bah tu la poses sur la table, elle va être un coup dans ce sens-là, un coup dans ce sens. Il faut qu'elle marche dans tous les sens. Et donc, c'est un effort de travail supplémentaire. Et ça, et en plus, avec Marc, comme c'était toujours nouveau, toujours nouveau, ça te boostait, mais c'est assez génial.
So, yeah, Pascal explained that what is interesting with covers is that the first thing is that you had the LP size and then the CD size and sometimes in the newspaper in the magazine you have little pictures of so he was thinking, well, the impact of a cover should adapt all sizes, and it can be cropped, it can be resized, and it should always be effective. It should always work. He saw this was very challenging and very interesting, especially in work with Mark. But a cover is also something it's not like a book. It doesn't have the orientation, the way you put it on a table, or sometimes it's upside down, so he always thought the cover should play with people's eyes. He tried to involve that thinking of a cover can be, multi-directional, or it can have many sizes. That is the core of his inspiration somehow.
Do you have to think of it differently, like almost graphic design, or do you still see it as a piece of art that's just going to be for mass production?
Tu vois ça comme une œuvre d'art ou comme un produit qui est puisque ça va être produit.
Un instantané qui montre là où j'en suis au moment où.
Yeah, he sees it more like something very personal, which what he can do, what he feels, and how he sees things at the instant. So it's like something very spontaneous. That's how he sees things, rather than graphic design, or it's really an instant process with the instant creative process.
You feel like it is you treat it as a collaboration with the Fall when you're creating their album cover?
Toi, tu voyais ça comme une collaboration avec la musique.
Ah oui, avec la musique.
C'est à la fois quelque chose de très... Yeah, so, ce que tu as dit que c'était quelque chose de très instantané, de très spontané, mais dans la collaboration. Yeah. So it was really something like, it's an instant, but putting his skills in relation with music, with the musicians.
En fait, ah oui, j'avais deux choses à dire. C'est que dans mon travail, il y a un côté que j'aime pas du tout, enfin assez rarement en fait, c'est le lettrage le titre du groupe et de l'album. Parce que souvent, donc là c'est très technique, c'est les graphistes de la maison de disques qui interviennent et qui font souvent de la merde ou n'importe quoi. Et eux sont mieux payés que moi avec ma pochette. Et ça, j'ai toujours eu du mal parce qu'en fait, pour moi, une pochette de disque, quand on te confie une pochette de disque, tu as une responsabilité, c'est que ça va être le premier contact que va avoir l'auditeur avec l'objet. Et donc, il faut lui donner envie d'aller vers le disque. Il faut qu'il soit attiré vers la pochette. Et moi, tous mes disques que je préfère, des pochettes, c'est des disques qui ont des pochettes vraiment importantes. Genre, bon, pour pas la nommer, Velvet Underground avec Nico.
So yeah, I think the cover is very, very important. It's something that, because you should have an immediate feeling of what you will feel with the music and what. So for Pascal, cover is so important, and very often he's not happy with what the graphic designer could add to his work. So in general, he was not so enthusiastic about it, because he somehow it could kill the immediate feeling the cover could give.
Et alors, ce que je voudrais rajouter aussi, c'est que à partir de Behind the Counter, j'ai fait des toiles qui faisaient 2 mètres sur 2 et qui servaient en même temps pour la pochette, hein, qui étaient placardées dans le fond. Comment?
Pendant les concerts?
Pendant les concerts, ouais, on stage.
From behind the counter, he made some huge paintings, 2x2, which is pretty big. And they were, in general, it was used for the cover and also used on stage. So they had these both.
Et donc c'est là que ça a commencé à devenir vraiment compliqué parce qu'il fallait amener les toiles sur place et passer tout le service de sécurité et compagnie pour arriver à aller sur scène pour placarder les toiles. C'était un enfer.
So it was pretty complicated regarding the security, transportation, and it was a headache, he said.
Parce que dans la sécurité, je me suis jamais fait d'amis.
He never enjoyed working with security people. Security people were really difficult in this process.
A lot of people, when I spoke about talking to Pascal, they brought up Middle Class Revolt. Everyone wants to know the meaning of the cover and the colors and the images. What can you tell us about the painting that you used on Middle Class Revolt?
Il y a plein de gens, c'est une des pochettes qui est le plus questionnée, celle-là, je crois.
Behind the Counter?
Ouais.
Class Revolt?
Middle Class Revolt.
Bah, elle est belle, hein.
Oui.
Elle est juste belle.
Oui, mais beaucoup de gens s'interrogent sur sa signification, sur la signification des couleurs, sur.
Bah ouais, mais moi je fais jamais d'explication de texte de mon travail.
He never explains anything. Well, about the process, yes, but about
le sens, jamais.
The meaning, he never explained anything.
Beautiful. I expected that, but you got to try.
Il sait, mais il fallait bien qu'il essaye, puisqu'on lui pose toujours la question.
Là, je suis désolé.
We can appreciate that there's some instinctive connection between the music on the album and the image, so we can make our own decision.
Par rapport à la pochette, c'est que c'est celle à ma connaissance, les gens se sont fait le plus tatouer sur leur bras.
Yeah, no, the only thing he can mention is this is the cover he designed, which is so the most tattooed on the arm of some people.
Yeah, somebody asked me that today. They said I was almost got the middle class revolt tattoo. How does Pascal feel about having this image on people's arms, especially if they don't really know what that deeper meaning is?
Alors qu'ils savent pas forcément quel est le sens profond qui était derrière cette peinture. Tu ressens comment le fait qu'il se tatoue le...
Moi, j'aime bien.
No, he likes it. He's honored.
Parce qu'en fait, pour en revenir à Middle Class Revolt, ce que je dirais, c'est, je dirais une citation de Matisse qui disait le plus difficile, c'est de faire simple. Et là, je pense que j'étais pas loin de la vérité.
Yeah, Matisse was a quote from Matisse is the most difficult is to be simple, is the simplest. And he thinks this cover is one of his best because it's one of the simplest. And so he's pretty he himself likes it very much. It's one of his favorite.
It's iconic, I think. But if we think of the Fall, they had a very rough aesthetic before the era, I guess, before Pascal took over. If we think of a cover like Hex Induction Hour, which is very, very messy, and this was Mark's kind of aesthetic. And then it's very interesting, for almost 10 years, Pascal's aesthetic is much more clean and neat. Was that ever a discussion with Mark about how the messiness of the early days was now a little more neat and tidy, and was that ever part of a discussion?
Avant toi, les pochettes étaient beaucoup plus bordéliques. Il avait un goût pour le bordel, pour le.
Oh non, c'est pas Marc, c'était les gens qui intervenaient aux pochettes.
D'accord.
Et c'est eux qui m'ont donné envie de travailler avec Marc.
Oui.
Et c'est mes copains aujourd'hui en plus.
Les gens qui ont fait les pochettes avant?
Ouais.
Avant?
On est très très copains.
Okay. Mais c'était un désir de Marc, ou toi, c'est juste, t'as proposé ça et il t'en parlait de ça, qu'il voulait quelque chose de clean ou de...
Non, ça a été... Il n'y avait pas de règle. Parce qu'en fait, ce qui était absolument fascinant avec Marc, je crois que c'est certainement celui qui m'a le moins embêté avec ça, c'est que tu avais carte blanche. Quand il disait, tu fais la pochette, il censurait rien.
Il a quand même recomposé les trucs.
Oui, après, ça lui arrivait. Mais il avait le droit, moi, je le poussais à ça aussi.
Two things. First thing, to answer your question, the mess didn't come really from Mark. What Pascal says, it's the people who designed the cover before.
Anthony et Klaus.
Anthony and Klaus had their own style. And in fact, Mark accepted what they were bringing. And it was their mess that Mark enjoyed. Somehow, what Pascal made for the Fall was not under instructions. He just brought something and Mark enjoyed it. And he thinks it's the same for what was made before him. And he says what was made before him is something Pascal enjoyed very much too. They made him excited about doing something for the Fall. It was nothing that's not what I like, and I'm going to do something different. He just said, "Wow, that's great," and he liked the cover and he liked the Fall. But when he started to work for Mark, he just proposed what he had in mind. Not as a reaction to what was made previously, but just because this was what he felt like. And Mark accepted it very, very directly, very, very immediately. And Mark was the musician, the artist he had almost never had some conflict with. Mark was not like wishing something and then they started to fight to get a result. They just, discussed about the cover. Mark was choosing an option or version. And sometimes Pascal enjoyed very much that Mark could involve in the process, like trying to edit or to make a different layout. But this was part of a process Pascal always enjoyed and appreciated. It was never a fight. It was always some kind of spontaneous creation that they made together, even if it was just Mark just took what Pascal made, or even when he was participating, it was like a chemical thing, like something that was really spontaneous in the relation they had.
That's beautiful, and actually it mirrors a lot of the way that the Fall would collaborate with musicians over the years. There was a lot of change of style, but the famous quote is always the same, always different. And I think that was because there was this kind of allowance for people to bring their own personalities to the music and to the art. I was interested in the album Cerebral Caustic, which was after Middle Class Revolt, because it's a very different style. I believe Pascal did this one as well. I was just interested. This is the first one that isn't painting. It's a very different approach. So,
Tu peux parler de cette couverture qui est très différente des autres et qui change par rapport à...
Bah ouais, mais moi j'ai toujours eu envie de faire quelque chose de nouveau et j'ai toujours voulu surprendre en disant si tu fais pas attention, tu sais même pas que c'est moi qui ai fait le travail. Effet de surprise. Parce que déjà, musicalement parlant, c'était toujours une surprise. Donc je voulais que les pochettes, elles se renouvellent aussi autant que ce qu'avait fait Marc en musique.
So the Fall was always a surprise. I mean, each album was a surprise for Pascal. So he wanted to have this kind of to challenge himself and also propose something different each time. But this had he had no limit, no boundaries. So then he could propose something completely different. Mais en même temps, là, il y a beaucoup, enfin, c'est pas de la peinture, c'est pas, donc, elle est quand même un peu différente des autres.
Bah, elle est très différente, si ce n'est que c'est moi qui l'ai faite.
He enjoyed the idea that someone could not know it's his work or not. He didn't want his cover to be a signature. It could be seen as a style, but he didn't care about that. He just wanted to, it was a kick. He just wanted to make something that he enjoyed. And he made it in painting after also.
I see this is one version, which is a beautiful 2013 remix. I really love some of these more recent versions. Very bold colors. I have one more cover that I'd like to talk about. You did so many and such a range, but I did want to ask you about my favorite, but the cover to Post Nearly Man, the spoken word album that Mark did. Is that Mark?
Oui, il voulait c'est une de ses...
moi, c'est ma préférée.
It's also one of his favorites.
Autant la pochette que le disque.
But because he likes very much the album, he likes very much this album. He likes so much the music that he connects both in his mind.
Marc, il était en train d'enregistrer, on s'est vu, il m'a dit tiens, je voudrais une pochette pour l'album. C'est lui qui a choisi la peinture. C'est parti tout de suite. C'était super rapide. Ça s'est fait super rapide.
So this was very immediate because Mark was in a studio. He was recording this album and then he chose some visual and it went very fast.
Et alors ce que je voudrais rajouter sur le disque, hein, c'est que moi j'encourageais énormément Marc à en enregistrer d'autres, en faire d'autres. Et donc il y a eu l'album solo suivant qu'il a fait avec F.A.L.L.O.U.T.P.O.D.C.A.S.T, qui a fait aussi la pochette, qui est beaucoup moins bien. Mais c'était pour moi le commencement de la fin.
So he was always encouraging Mark to record new things and to have new projects. And the next one was made with F.A.L.L.O.U.T.P.O.D.C.A.S.T, that's right. And this was the beginning of the end of the collaboration, that's right.
On me disait que de mes meilleures pochettes, c'était un chef-d'œuvre, c'était Marshall Suite. Celle-là.
So yeah, the Marshall Suite was people enjoyed very much this one. C'est pas forcément ta préférée.
Bah si, mais c'est un peu comme sur les Broadcasting, c'est-à-dire que j'ai cette idée et je la réalise et ça devient une pochette. Parce qu'au final, c'est le support qui est l'œuvre d'art en fait. C'est pas la photo en soi, c'est l'objet.
Yeah, so what he considers as a piece of art is the
Que là,
the result itself.
j'ai été collé sur place, hein.
And this is something he is glued directly
Pas une photomontage.
to take the picture. It's not how do you call it? It's not a layout. It's not made in situ. It just sticked this.
For me, this was the one that I can't shake. The connection between this image and the music is so strong for me. And every time I listen, that image of the dollar bill on the stop sign is like always in my head whenever I listen to this record. It's for me, I mean, I love most of a lot of the stuff that Pascal's done, but this one just, for some reason, it really connects.
Il dit que pour une raison qui lui est inconnue, enfin il y a beaucoup de pochettes de toi qu'il aime, mais celle-là, il trouve qu'il y a une connexion entre la musique et la pochette. Quand il entend la musique, il voit la pochette.
Merci.
We had Una Baines on a little while ago. She came by, and I know that you've been working with Una over the last few years. Could you maybe tell us a little bit about what you're doing currently? And
il a rencontré
Una Baines.
Et ils ont parlé de toi et il sait que vous échangé.
On est très très copains. Ouais.
Et they are close friends. Et donc, est-ce que vous avez des projets ensemble? Enfin, quel est c'est quoi
Ben, elle m'a demandé de faire une pochette il y a longtemps et ça va sortir au mois de juin.
Normally, there is a project going on and it should be released in June.
Yeah, the Poppycock album, but yeah, should be a lot of fun. We did a play recently and she came to see it, so I think Phil and Alistair got to have a chat with her a little there as well.
We did, yeah. She actually did a staging version, the second part of the show, where she's such a lovely person, Una. Yeah, she was very sweet to come down. Can I ask a bit of a left field question? Because I feel like we're kind of coming to the end of the fall proper stuff. But I was really, really curious about the collaborations you've done with Michel Bluteau, the poet, the French poet, and I wondered how that came together.
Comment c'est arrivé l'histoire avec
Michel, je le connais depuis très 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 longtemps. En fait, j'avais lu une interview de lui dans Les Inrecuptibles. Non, en fait, j'ai des bêtises. C'était une interview sur le disque qu'il avait fait, qui avait été produit par Elliot Murphy. Et à un vernissage de William Burroughs, je rencontre Michel. Et donc, je lui dis, je venais juste de lire l'article. Et donc, je lui parle de ça. Et il me dit, bah, faut qu'on se rencontre. Et depuis, on est devenus amis. Et on a eu une collaboration. On a fait un livre ensemble.
He has heard of Michel when Michel had a record produced by Elliot Murphy.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, so this was the first he read or he saw something about that. And he was curious about that. And then after that, they met at the opening of an exhibition of William Burroughs. And at that time, Pascal talked to him, and they very quickly became close friends. When was that? C'était quelle année, ça?
80 quelque.
In 80 something, 80. In the 80s.
Je l'ai vu il y a
very long time ago.
On est très amis.
And they are very, very close friends. And then they had this collaboration after that together. But they still meet each other pretty often. Michel had a stroke recently. Il a fait un AVC il y a combien de temps?
Oh non, mais il en a fait plein.
He had many strokes, but he always, he survives, and he's still very witty and very.
He's very much the renegade, much like Marquis Smith. Really, they strike me as similar characters.
Il trouve qu'il a un peu le même caractère.
Ah ben, moi je vais dire, pour moi, Marc et Michel Bluteau, ils ont un point commun, c'est tous les deux des dandies.
Yeah, both are really dandies. That's what he thinks. C'est
impressionnant quoi. Quand je vois l'un, je vois l'autre.
And when he sees Michel, he always sees Mark. Well,
Camus said the dandy was a rebel, didn't he? So yeah, I'll take that.
Camus a dit que le dandy est un rebelle, donc il comprend dans quel sens tu veux le dire.
Ouais, d'accord.
I was also going to ask about the piece Lilith. I really enjoyed watching Lilith.
You've read Michel Bluteau.
My French isn't that great, but I really like his style. And after I watched this video last night, I did a bit of research and realized the Roberto Bellano connection. because he uses him as a character. So I just was doing a lot of research on him last night, and I realized how cool he is, and I'm going to listen to some stuff now because you've introduced me to him, really.
Non.
Bah, il a fait des recherches à partir de Bulto et Roberto Bellano et ça l'a rendu mais c'était hier soir donc ça l'a
Ouais.
excité. Mais il ne lit pas Bulto parce il peut pas vraiment, il aime beaucoup son style mais il
C'est pas
maîtrise
très
pas le
bien.
français quoi. C'est pas traduit.
Et là, la vidéo qu'on voit là avec Michel, j'ai rien fait, c'est le programme qui a fait la vidéo.
So for this video, he made the soft that was producing the image, but then the image is just entered the image and it's the final result. He didn't interfere then.
Looks amazing.
Let's take a look at Lilith, and then I'll play a little bit of the one called Jackson, where I think Reese Chatham was also involved.
C'est peut-être ce que Lilith veut révéler à son jeune thérapeute lorsqu'elle lui met
Anecdote
le
avec
visage avec le sang de sa blessure. Nous sommes dans l'ultime film de Robert Rossen,
Beaux-Arts,
1964.
vidéo, j'ai travaillé avec
Imposer les limites de son réel, et ça ne marche pas. Elle ne se méfie pas assez de cette boule du miroir dont elle parle que
Carole Hermitage.
leur scintiller à la surface de
J'ai complètement bluffé. Ça m'a impressionné, mais vraiment très fort. Et ça a disparu de ma mémoire. Et des années plus tard, Michel me dit, tiens, j'enregistre avec Rhys. Est-ce que tu veux venir? Donc, j'ai rencontré Rhys Chatham.
The first time Pascal met Rhys Chatham, well, he didn't know him. He was just playing guitar, and it was a performance with Carole Hermitage. You know Carole Hermitage, famous dancer, and it was blowed his mind. He was really very impressed, and he was so enthusiastic. So he remembered his name and then when Michel told him he had a project with Rhys Chatham, and he wanted him to participate, he was really surprised because then it was a kind of coincidence, and he was really enthusiastic to meet him again. Voilà.
Let's take a little bit of a listen to Jackson, which is Pascal, Michael Bulto, and Reese Chatham. That's beautiful. So if you're listening, obviously this is an audio podcast, so I will share the video link so you can enjoy. Yeah, please, listeners, please take a good look at the videos on the playlist, because Pascal has done some wonderful stuff. Pascal, maybe just if you could tell us a little bit about how video has kind of come into your work and been a part of your work, connected to the fall, but obviously everything you've done.
Quelle est la place de la vidéo dans ton travail? Enfin, comment ça s'agence, comment c'est venu, entre autres pour The Fall, mais en général.
En fait, à la base, j'avais un copain au Beaux-Arts qui faisait des vidéos et qui m'avait inclus dans son travail et qui m'a commencé ça a commencé à me démanger. Et après, je me suis rendu compte que c'était une prolongation de travail que je pouvais faire à partir des pochettes.
First of all, he had a friend.
Regarde, I'm in Deep, a tribute to Mark Bayer.
Shall we watch a little of that? Yeah, and then you can tell us about your connection to Mark Bayer. I think Ezra wanted to ask you a little bit about that connection. Let's have a listen, and then.
I seek not to know all the answers, but to understand the questions.
he trekked up and down the tender wires of this haunted aisle, and he couldn't get away from this thing he was under because, of course, it was inside him. This is the story he told me. Often I would go banqueting on Oxford Road near Rotters, and this conversation with a fellow about how inside there's no dimensions beyond recall, and instead of sitting there giggling, kids, listen to what this man said, because one day deciding what taxi you take home will be the last of your problems, because he's gone up and down this haunted aisle, but still he couldn't escape. It was inside him, and this is the story he told me about being in deep.
Beautiful. Ezra?
I've really enjoyed getting to know Pascal's work from this very nice playlist. My own kind of feeling about most modern art is that it's a boring conceptual con. I'm thinking of stuff like Damien Hirst, for example. I was much more interested in comic books, which is how I came to know about Mark Bayer's work. So it was very interesting to see that Pascal also has like a background of comics fandom.
On travaille, je crois, à travers cette vidéo, si j'ai bien compris, et il dit que...
Celle-là?
Ben, j'ai l'impression, parce qu'il lui avait filé plein de
Là, je n'ai rien
liens.
fait, moi. Enfin,
Ouais.
au niveau du dessin, c'est que de la réécriture de Mark Bayer.
Oui.
Je l'ai mis en scène, quoi.
Mais non, enfin, disons que il a découvert sa danse et enfin, bon, ça a été une porte d'entrée et il était content parce que lui, ça l'a toujours un peu gonflé l'art contemporain. Et en fait, il était content et il a compris ton intérêt pour le dessin, la bande dessinée, cet univers-là, parce que lui-même partage ce goût-là.
I definitely think that Mark Bayer and the Raw magazine and all of that kind of stuff fits in with that neo-expressionism of what we saw earlier with the with Figuration Libre. Yeah, comic books, and then obviously the famous stuff like Basquiat and Keith Haring is all kind of in that mix. Pascal, did you feel you were part of a scene like that, or were you always just working independently?
Tu te vois connecté à cette scène de la figuration libre, de Keith Haring,
Alors, moi, j'ai connu Keith Haring et Basquiat, donc j'y pense tout le temps.
Yeah, he doesn't know if he belongs to something, but he met them. He met Basquiat and he met Keith Haring, and they are still very alive in his memory.
La musique était très importante.
And the music was also very important to them. And Pascal, I think they share this link with the music, this feeling, strong feeling with connected to the music. They were very important people, friends.
Yeah, influences of all of those things for me are all in the air in a lot of the artwork from that era. Maybe I have one last question. If I look at the painting here, I think this says it's 2023. So Pascal, are you still painting with the same passion? And how do you feel your art has evolved over the years?
Est-ce que tu peins toujours avec le même enthousiasme et comment tu vois ton travail aujourd'hui?
Je sais pas trop quoi répondre parce qu'en fait, comme j'ai dit, je travaille toujours avec la musique et donc là, les prochains projets que j'ai, c'est avec Yuna et Jeff's Down, mais j'aimerais beaucoup retrouver une production plus importante et là, j'ai pas trop mon temps.
Well, he's painting on his own, and you know, Pascal had a few years ago had a heart attack. So this was a hard time because he had to recover his strength, but he went on painting and painting and painting. But what is the most stimulating thing for him is music. So what is a little sad about it, he thinks he doesn't have enough music project, enough music collaboration, because this is what is really stimulating for him as a painter, and he never thought about a painting completely separate from the link with music. So he thinks if he had more project with musician, he would paint more, he would produce more, even if he's still producing, even if he has slowed down a bit.
Well, we're happy that you are healthy and well today. Well, there's some musicians here that would love to work with you. So maybe we can send you some music and you can decide if it fits with your aesthetic. I want to say thank you very much, Pascal and Roy, for helping out. It's been wonderful to talk to you. When I first started thinking about trying to reach out to you, I looked for interviews and all things, and there's little bits here and there, but I think this might be the first time that F.A.L.L.O.U.T.P.O.D.C.A.S.T fans have had the chance to have a recording of a long conversation, maybe. So thank you very, very much.
Il te remercie parce que voilà, ça fait.
Et si je peux me permettre, je voudrais juste faire une annonce en disant que les deux prochains avec qui je voudrais travailler, c'est Peter Doherty et John Dwyer.
So yeah, he mentioned two musicians he would really like to collaborate with. Great. Yeah.
Really, really would.
Ouais, des choses. Voilà, ils ont plein de connexions, donc si ça t'intéresse, voilà, de collaborer avec ces musiciens.
Well, Pascal, thank you so much. It has been wonderful. Please stay well, stay creating. Gentlemen, anything to say to Pascal?
Just thank you, Pascal and Roy. Today's been such a treat for us, and it's great to hear some of the background story on the artwork that we've enjoyed so much as an accompaniment to one of our favorite bands. So just thank you very much.
Thanks to you guys.
All
enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you.
Enjoy. Take care.
Merci beaucoup.